Hey everybody, DM Gallibond here, and tonight on Lore Friday we're going to take a look at the Darklake. That is the next adventure from the Out of the Abyss campaign. And this one is the first adventure that starts Chapter 3, and the rest of the chapters in this particular campaign focus around some of the settled areas. The Darklake is a region within the Underdark that is miles and miles of many interconnected lakes, rivers, and waterways that make up an entire region. And from the campaign map, you can see that this is the area where we are talking about. This is from Out of the Abyss, which is a campaign published by Wizards of the Coast, September of 2015. This particular adventure is geared for Tier 1 characters that are about level 3 or 4. The theme of this particular adventure is to traverse a series of interconnected underground lakes, rivers, and other waterways within the vast expanse of the Underdark. The setting is those caverns of the Underdark that are between civilized settlements. Now, the Darklake has a couple of settlements on its shoreline, but the way this particular adventure is structured, it is you traveling toward one of those settlements and doesn't really involve being in any of those settlements. So the teaser or the hook for this particular adventure is that the party has fled far from Velkenvelv, and they still sense pursuit by the drow. But now the PCs have come to an expanse of water, either with a guide or on their own. And they cannot go back, they have to go forward. But how? The summary of the adventure looks a little bit like this. As the PCs travel, they can wade in the shallows, they can build a raft or a boat from some fungus, or they can swim. Swimming is probably the worst option because there are things that live in the water as well as things that are on the water and on the ceiling as well. So the entire adventure consists of navigating the underground lakes, rivers, and other waterways that make up the Darklake region. This adventure tells us the Darklake is not a single body of water like one of the Great Lakes in the Underdark. Instead, it's a system of connected waterways that stretches for 100 miles or more in several different directions. Navigation between these bodies of water is made easier because of centuries of work by Duergar engineers that have artificially widened and dug out some of the channels and other waterways, and they've also constructed locks to bypass some of the waterfalls. Non-Duergar have a chance to make skill and ability checks to determine how to operate the locks if they come upon these and discover them without having any kind of guide that knows their way around the Underdark. Native humanoids, who are mostly Duergar and kuo-toa in the Underdark, build boats and rafts from some of the fungi like zerkwood. These boats use the standard stat block of keel boats from the Dungeon Master's Guide for purposes of travel pace and durability. No matter what mode of travel the PCs choose, they may have two different kinds of encounters during this adventure. They have terrain encounters and they have monster encounters. So terrain encounters include water features like rapids and reef-like stone features underwater, which are called stone jaws, waterfalls, whirlpools, narrow passages that may cause a boat to get stuck, and stalagmites or falling stone from the ceiling of the caverns far above. Monster encounters include monsters that may attack the party from below, from in the water, on the surface, mainly humanoids or fae in boats, or above, flying down from the ceiling. So aquatic monsters include aquatic trolls, Ixodactyl, marrow, quippers, and water weirds. Duergar, kuo-toa, and even a green hag may be in boats and may attack surface dwellers that are all alone in the Underdark. And flying monsters that you'll find in this encounter include Grell, Dark Mantles, and Sturges. The latter two monsters usually cling to the ceiling until prey comes along and then they fly or fall down onto their victims. There's really no specific objectives to any of these encounters other than surviving them. and there's not much treasure from them either. Now, the only connection to the main plot of the campaign with the random encounters is the Marrow, who are driven to drown any surface dwellers they find to appease one of the demon lords that has found a way to hold sway over them. The Duergar have a connection to one city on the edge of the Darklake, and that's Gracklestug. And the kuo-toa have a connection to Sloobludop, another settlement on the Darklake. While all the encounters with the kuo-toa start out as hostile, if the party overwhelms them, the PCs might get some information about their town. And the Duergar will attack or ambush a party that looks weak. However, they might parlay or even be neutral towards a powerful party. Now, the rest of the monsters that you find here, they're just out hunting for a meal or seeking to kill. The most common enemies you will find in this are varied. I mean, you've heard about all the kinds of underwater, humanoid, in boats, and the flying creatures that are there. So there's a real variety. There's not really any one common enemy that you'll find. The toughest encounter, as written in here, is against an aquatic troll, which is a CR5 monster. Now, the special creatures or items in this include a brand new monster for 5th edition. I think it had been introduced in earlier editions of the game, but its first appearance in 5e was here in this campaign, and that is the Ixicatio. Now, I never am able to pronounce that name the same way twice. I believe it is based on the same language that we get Quetzalcoatl from, and my history fails me. I can't remember whether that was from the Aztec people in Mexico or from the Incas in Peru, or perhaps I'm overlooking a different culture that was in Central South America before the Spanish arrived and began colonization in this hemisphere. This Ixicatl is a kind of intelligent manta ray from another dimension, because it's an aberration. Now, otherwise, there's no unique creatures or items here. The encounters are all with the races, monstrosities, and aberrations that call the depths of the Underdark home. My favorite element of this adventure is not the map this time, because there really isn't a map for us. What my favorite part of the adventure is the list of randomly generated terrain encounters, because this makes a nice template for navigating waterways above ground or below ground. Now, of course, above ground, with the benefit of sunlight and moonlight, the DCs for noticing things would be much easier or non-existent, and you would have to switch a few of those, because you would never run into stalactites coming down from sticking tight to the ceiling. Stalactites, you wouldn't deal with those in a lake or a river on the surface, but a lot of the other things, the rapids, the jagged rocks that might rip out the bottom of a boat, the narrow passages, the waterfalls, all those kinds of things would be hazards that you might have to deal with when you are on the surface, as well as being in the Underdark. The easiest homebrew adaptation here is this. This is really suitable for any campaign where your PCs are traveling by water. And if you want to take it whole cloth, just anywhere where they might be traveling underground. It doesn't have to be the Underdark. It could be going through flooded caves or a flooded mine system or something like that. So you could easily use all of these encounters in that kind of story arc of your homebrew campaign. Now, virtually all of the monsters here have appeared in older editions of the game, as has the environment of the Underdark itself. Therefore, you can use it with any edition of D&D that you want. And that is going to conclude our look at the Darklake for this time. Now, if you've been watching this far, I really hope you'll subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, and click the post notification bell so that you get notified every time new content drops on the channel. Next time on Lore Friday, we are going to take a look, the first look that we have done in this series, at a settlement. And the settlement we will be examining is Sloobludop, the kuo-toa city that is in the Darklake. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Good night, everyone.